Here's a quick lesson on intervals. What an interval is just the distance from one note to another. So if you hit one note and you go to a higher or lower note, we can memorize how far that distance is. If we played two notes at the same time, that would be a harmonic interval. If I played one note then another note, that would be a melodic interval. But it's all based on the major scale. Everything in music, theory-wise, is based on the major scale. So here we just number each note of the major scale. Now we could use any major scale. Here's just a major scale fingering that I'm choosing. We could use any of them though. There are only 7 notes in a major scale. The 8th note is the same as the first note. So instead of calling that 8, we will call that the first note. It will repeat itself again. Singers would go do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. They would sing that as the solfege. So, but all we need to do is we number each one of these notes in the major scale. 1 to 2, this would just be called a second interval. Da-now. Sorry, I don't have perfect pitch on it, see. But that would be a second. And then here to here, if I played from this note to the third note of the scale, that would be known as a third interval. And we try to memorize the sound and the feeling and the vibe and songs and riffs, melodies that go these different distances. The first note to the fourth note, do, re, mi, fa, do, fa, dun, dun, that kind of a thing here. This would be then a fourth interval, right? So very, very simple. Everything in music's based off the major scale. There's 7 notes of the major scale. If I play from the first note and then I hit, say, the 8th fret of the low E to the 10th fret of the A string, and I hit those together, that would be a power chord. That's why when you see that, it'll say C5. Power chords are written as 5 because it's an interval. So that's all intervals are. Very simple. Interval is just the distance between 2 notes. Now, if you notice 8 to 10 on the low E, 8th fret to the 10th fret, that's a whole step. That's a second interval. We call it a whole step or a second. But what would the 8th fret to the 9th fret be? Well, since it's one lower than 10, it would be a flat second. So we could have a flat second. We could actually maybe have a sharp second if we wanted, but that would also be the same as a flat third. We won't really have a flat 4 very much because that's the same note as 3. If you notice that 3 to 4 is only a half step in a major scale, and 7 to 8 or 7 back to 1 is only a half step in a major scale. So we generally won't have a flat 8 or a flat 4 very often. Now, each one of these intervals then, these are all the intervals that exist. If we both hit this note at the same time, that would be a first interval. That would be called unison. But the next one we'll actually hear, 8 to 9th fret, that would be a flat second. 8 to the 10th fret, this would be a second. If I went one lower than this or one higher than this, that would be a flat third. Then we have the third. Then 1 to 4, this would be known as a fourth interval. 1 to flat 5 or sharp 4 is the next one. We'll call it a flat 5 here since we're here. Flat 5th. Then the first to the 5th. You have the first to the flat 6th. You have the first note to the 6th. And then we could go the first note to the 7th, but we have one lower, so we could go a flat 7th, and then we also have a 7th interval. So these are just the numbers of your intervals. Pretty simple. Those are what all they are in the major scale. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and any other scale, we're just going to use these numbers in a formula to figure out which of these notes are we using or which ones are we changing. And that's how music theory works, basically. So if a major scale is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we realize a major chord is just 1, 3, and 5 of that. That would be a major chord. Say I was doing a scale and the scale didn't have this note here. Instead, it had this scale. That would be a C Lydian. So then what would the formula of a Lydian mode be? Well, it's the same as a major scale, but this note was different. It was one higher, so it's a sharp fourth interval. And that would be the formula of a C Lydian mode. We'll do more modes and formulas and things later. But that's the formula of the major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that's all intervals are. 1 to 2 is a second, 1 to 3 is a third, 1 to 4 is a fourth, 1 to 5 is a fifth. And this is how you write it. And these are the numbers. Second, third, flat third, third, fourth, fifth, or sorry, flat fifth, fifth, flat sixth, sixth, flat seventh, and seventh. You're going to want to memorize what all of those sound like, figure out a song that you may know that uses it, or a melody line that has those distances. Figure out the vibe that each of these intervals produce. You'll notice this one's kind of dark. All these flat ones kind of sound dark. That's your evil one. This one here is kind of sad and dark. These are all like, bleh. But some of these are like kind of happier and stuff. And you got to kind of figure out which ones are kind of gonna be ones that are happy, ones that are sad, ones that give you a certain vibe, and then you can listen. Once you find you'll know where is if you start to memorize what these distances are. Do, re, do, mi, do, fa, do, so, do. Learn to hear them. All right, that's an interval lesson. Thanks.